Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video, we're gonna continue looking at Return to Ravnica, and we're gonna move on and look at Izzet Ingenuity, which is as it says, it is blue-red. So let's dive in, and start looking at it. So we got deck list here. We got 16 creatures, 9 instants, 7 sorceries, 2 artifacts, 1 enchantment, and 25 land. So not a huge number of creatures, but I think we can expect that for an Izzet deck. It's obviously going to focus more on instants and sorceries. Again, that's very iconic blue-red. So let's start looking at the cards. So the foil face rare is Hypersonic Dragon. So 3, which always sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh card to me. I'm not like knocking Yu-Gi-Oh. It's just like it's just a cool name that doesn't sound very magic-y, but like it's still cool. So 3, a blue and a red for a 4/4 flying haste. So like pretty good stat line, honestly. And its ability, you can cast sorcery spells as though they had flash, which is pretty interesting. So you don't have a huge number of sorceries in here. I think you had what, 7? Yeah, 7 sorceries, and I would argue. I mean, obviously, casting a sorcery at instant speed is always like a benefit. You don't have to like wait to your main phase to cast it. You can cast it at end of opponent's turn. But yeah, this is okay. It's a little, I don't know, feels a little underwhelming as an ability within this deck. It is a good ability, but I'm not sure if this deck makes the best use out of it, if that makes sense. But like overall, I still think like it's cool. Yeah, it's a cool creature. Yeah, and it's a fun ability, and in a more more constructed deck, where you could use this ability to its full extent, I think it'd be really good. But I just say in here, I don't think it's reaching its full potential. But yeah, I think it's all good as a foil face rare. We have 2 Goblin Electromancers, so 1 blue and a red, for a 2/2. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Always like it when red or blue get these kind of not exactly mana dorks, but like they reduced costs. I always think that's really fun. Always like creatures like that, and it just being a 2/2 for 2 as well is obviously pretty solid. So yeah, and this is common as well. I thought this was uncommon. Oh well. Yeah, this is really great. Really like Goblin Electromancer. Really good. And then we have the Guild Mage, Nivix Guild Mage even. So 1 blue and a red for 2/2. So you can pay 1 blue, 1 colours, 1 blue, 1 red to draw a card and then discard a card, or pay 2 colours, a blue and a red, to copy an instant or sorcery spell you control, and you can choose new targets for the copy. So that second ability is obviously pretty good. It is expensive though, obviously, but it doesn't require a tap. You could do it multiple times if you had the mana to do so. So yeah, I think this is okay. I think that first ability is not really card draw; it's just looting, really, isn't it? But yeah, it's still okay. Yeah, this is sort of a good pair of abilities, I think, for the Izzet Guild Mage. Right, and then we have 2 Gutter Snipes. I think this is going to be honestly like the star of the deck, really. So 2 and a red for a 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, which there's a few in the deck, Gutter Snipe does 2 damage to each opponent. That is a free trigger. You don't have to pay any extra mana for it. It happens every time. It's not once a turn. Yeah, this is really strong. Gutter Snipe can really like rack up damage, I think, quite quickly if you have a fairly decent turn where you just cast a bunch of instants and sorceries, and it just throws out essentially like a free shock every turn. Yeah, this is really strong. I think Gutter Snipe is really good. Having 2 in the deck is really good, honestly. Yeah, great card to include. And then we have 2 Blister Coil Weirds, a single hybrid, red-blue for a 1/1. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, Blister Coil Weird gets +1/+1 till end turn, and you untap it. So this is okay. The unfortunately, the untapping I don't think has too many synergies in the deck. I don't think you got any things where you like tap something to get an extra benefit, but obviously getting a power toughness boost from instants and sorceries is okay. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine as a 1-drop, I think, in blue-red. And then we have 3 Rune Wings, so 3 in a blue just for a 2/2 flyer, and when it dies, draw a card. Yeah, perfectly fine. Yeah, a little bit dull, but yeah, absolutely fine. And then a really random selection of creatures, honestly. And I sort of get why they're here. So, Tenement Crasher, 5 and a red for a 5/4 with haste. So I guess, the idea is like, we're going to eventually look at, there's obviously a lot of burn and sort of bounce and control options in here. So I'm guessing Tenement Crasher is really just kind of like a burn spell, but with power and toughness, essentially, because it's fairly chunky, it's got haste, it could come down and kind of just like, potentially finish the game the turn it comes down. So yeah, that's okay, I suppose. 3 Cobble Brutes, however, I feel like there's definitely, you didn't need to have 3 of them. We could have definitely maybe only had 1 or 2. So it's just 3 in a red for a 5/2. So obviously really chunky in terms of power, but like it just feels a little frail to me. Just the two toughness. But again, I suppose late game if you manage to like do a lot of burn and bounce and stuff and kind of clear the path, this could come in and be potentially a finisher, or like it's a big scary blocker, if someone wants to run in their big creature, like, you've got a Cobble Brute, I suppose, to block and kill it, I suppose. But I do think there's maybe slightly better options that we could have had instead of that. And then a single Welkin turn from M13. So 1 and a blue for a 2/1 flyer. It can only block other creatures with flying, has high flying. Yeah, this is fine. Again, like fairly aggressively costed at 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer. So yeah, this is okay. Right, so moving on to the non-creature spells, and we get to talk about the new Izzet keyword for Return to Ravnica block. So previous times we went to Ravnica, City of Guilds, they had Replicate, which was, in my opinion, not a great keyword at all. The spells that had Replicate were kind of underwhelming, and Replicate costs were usually very, very expensive. Replicate was when you cast a spell, you could pay its replicate cost any number of times, and you would get essentially a copy of the spell. But the spells were so underwhelming, and the replicate cost was so high, it was like never really a great option to do it. There's maybe like 1 or 2 cards where it was okay, but for the most part, it was not wonderful. So now Izzet have Overload, which is, I think, an excellent keyword, and it shows up on Cyclonic Rift, which is, from what I understand, a bit of a notorious card in Commander. So Overload is so you have. So let's look at Mizian Mortars. So 1 in a red does 4 damage to a creature you don't control, and at sorcery speed. So that's pretty good. 2 mana, like 4 damage to a creature, or you can pay the Overload cost for 3 and triple red. And if you cast a spell for its Overload cost, you change the text by replacing target with each. So if you pay the Overload cost, this does 4 damage to each creature you don't control, which is a real jump up in terms of how much damage is then coming down. So yeah, I really like these Overload spells that it's either cheap and affects a single thing, or you ramp it up and it affects everything. And they're all worded nicely, so like it never really like affects your stuff. It never negatively affects you for overloading. Which I think it's like a really nice design choice. So yeah, I think Overload is a great, probably my favorite of the Izzet keywords. So yeah, Mizian Mortars is the other rare of the deck, and I think it's really, really good. Potentially it's a board wipe at 6 mana. So yeah, really, really good. So 2 Electrickery. Another reason I like the Overload spells is they all have like really like just fun Izzety names, I suppose. So Electrickery. So 1 red mana at instant speed, does 1 damage to type creature you don't control. You can overload it for 1 red, so it does 1 damage to each creature you don't control. So yeah, baby Mizian Mortars. But yeah, still good, I think. Because this is it's Ravnica, so there's going to be kind of like Saproling tokens around at some point. So yeah, this is perfectly fine. A single Bluster Squall, 1 blue mana to tap a creature you don't control, but you can overload it for 3 and a blue to tap everything you don't control. So again, like really, really strong effect. Really like this. It's just the utility offered by them. A single downsize, 1 blue mana to give a creature you don't control -4/-0 on a turn. You can overload it for 2 and a blue to shrink the whole board. And a single Teleportal. So this is, I guess, a potential win condition here. So Teleportal, 1 blue, 1 red. A creature you control gets +1/+0 and is unblockable this turn. But you can overload it for 3 and a blue and a red. So 5 mana to give your whole board +1/+0 and unblockable this turn. So that's actually really good, actually, with all the Cobble Brutes and Tenement Crasher you've got. So this could be potentially your game ender here if you assemble a fairly decent-ish board. Yeah, and you could just win there with a bunch of unblockable creatures. So yeah, really like Teleportal. And then we've got some more like kind of traditional burn. So we've got 2 Annihilating Fires, so 1 and 2 red, does 3 damage to a creature or player. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, it gets exiled instead, so it's like a red disintegrate effect, so that's always fun to see. A single Explosive Impact, 5 and a red for instant speed, does 5 damage to a creature or player. Yep, just really big chunky bit of damage. 2 Goblin Rallies, so 3 and 2 red, to make 4 Goblin tokens. So this is actually kind of nice, goes with Teleportal. You could just suddenly do this, drop a bunch of Goblin tokens and then Teleportal the next turn, attack with a bunch of unblockable Goblins, I suppose. A single Pursuit of Flight, 1 and a red, an aura goes on a creature, gives it +2/+2, and it has, you can pay 1 blue to give it flying till end turn, which is, it's kind of like a little boring as an aura, honestly. Like, the +2/+2 is okay, but it's not really what the deck wants to do, I suppose. It's okay. I mean, you can still put this on, something like Hypersonic Dragon, just have like a buffed up big flyer, I suppose. But it's okay. It just feels like a bit of a weird choice to have, I suppose. A single Thought Flare, so 3, a blue and a red. You draw 4 cards, then discard 2 cards. Instant speed, this is okay, I think, to get some card draw. It is technically only +1 because what you're spending 3 cards to get 4, I suppose. But it's okay. It's not like red, draw. It's not like draw and then discard at random. Yeah, this is okay, I think. Instant speed, 5 mana for this effect. It's all right, I think. And then 2 Izzet Key runes, so 3 mana for an artifact. Taps to give you blue or red, and you can pay blue and a red until end turn, make it a 2/1 elemental creature. And whenever it deals combat damage for a player, you may draw a card if you did discard a card. So I really like these key runes. The Izzet one is like just the weirdest one because it doesn't like give a keyword, because blue and red don't really share a keyword at this time in the game, so it has to do the card draw saboteur effect, I suppose. It's it's still a loot effect. It's still okay. Yeah, it's all right. And then just a bit of burn here from M13. So single Chandra's Fury, 4 and a red, does 4 damage to a player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls. Yep, this is, I think, really nice at like 5 mana at instant speed at common. I think it's really good. 2 Krenko's Command, 1 a red, just to make 2 goblins. So actually got quite a few effects in here that make goblin tokens, which is a weird theme to sort of double down on. And then a single Wild Guess, 2 red mana. As additional cost to cast it, discard a card, draw 2 cards. So again, so it's not really card draw because you're spending 2 cards to get 2 cards, but it's okay. It's okay, I suppose. Yeah. It's red card draw. It's you take what you take what you can, I suppose. Right, and then Landwise, we've got a single Izzet Guildgate. I really think there should have been 2, honestly, but it's fine. Just dual land, comes and play tapped, gives you blue or red. Yep, it's fine, but I really do think there should be 2. And then 12 Mountain, 12 Island. So, what could have been? So I think it's using pretty much all the overload spells, honestly. There's a few things I do differently, I think. Let's talk about an alternate rare first of all. So Hypersonic Dragon, I think is okay. What I would have preferred is Mercurial Chemister, Tony Stark here. So 3, a blue and a red. So 2/3. And you pay 1 blue and tap to draw 2 cards, which is immediately like quite a good effect. And you can pay 1 red, tap, discard a card. It does damage to target creature equal to the discarded card's mana value. So you draw extra cards if you need to, and if you need to shoot an opponent's creature, you can. So yeah, I think this could have been a potential alternate instead of Hypersonic Dragon. It's not as big and flashy, but I think it would have maybe done more what the deck wants to do. Maybe like just draw cards and burn opponent's creatures, maybe. I would have liked to see Frostburn weird, honestly. So 2 hybrid mana for a 1/4, and you pay 1 blue and a red to give it +1/-1 till 10. I just think this would have been like a good early game creature to drop down. It's like obviously really defensive. It's really chunky at 4 toughness. Because that's kind of what I guess the deck wants to do, is like stall out. Not really do combat. You want to be doing like burn spells, I suppose. So yeah, this could have been like fairly good defensively, and then if it needed to attack, you can at least switch its power toughness around and attack with it. So I think that would have been okay. Maybe instead of one or two of the cobble brutes, like these instead, maybe. And Izzet Charm, I would have loved to have Izzet Charm here. Like all the guild charms, I think are really, really good. Izzet Charm might be. I'm not going to say it's the best one because Boros Charm is really, really strong as well. Izzet Charm is very good, honestly. And even just having one of them, I think, would have been great. So it's blue and a red, like all the charms are. It has three options. You either counter a non-creature spell, unless the controller pays 2, or it does 2 damage to a creature, or you draw 2 and discard 2. So all three of those options are like really, really good. You know, it's either counter or counter or burn or card draw, which is all three effects the deck wants. Yeah, it would have been. It seems like such a missed opportunity that this deck didn't have Izzet Charm. As I said, I don't in the last video. I don't think any of these decks actually had the guild charm in them, which seems like such a missed opportunity to like really drive home the flavor, I suppose. But yeah, overall, I think that the deck's okay. It's showing off the overload card, which is fine. Maybe like one more copy of each of those overload cards would have been okay. But then I don't know, maybe starting getting to the realms of like it being maybe being a little too consistent, a bit too good. But yeah, I like it. I do like overload as a keyword. I think it's pretty good. And overall, I think this deck is okay. Apart from the weird weird somehow focus on making goblin tokens for some reason. But yeah, overall, I think it's all right. If you got any thoughts or stories or comments or opinions about this deck after we've looked at it, stick a comment below. Always like reading those. But I'll be back next time to look at another Return to Ravnica deck. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.